This One's Wife. Stay strong, Dad. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. At least 69 people have been killed and dozens injured after a powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck the central Philippines late on Tuesday. The province of Cebu, which suffered the brunt of the damage, declared a state of calamity early on Wednesday, after thousands spent the night on the streets amid repeated aftershocks. One Cebu resident told the BBC he was among them, adding that power and water supplies were cut off. He says the voices of crying children could be heard around him, adding that they were traumatized. The earthquake comes barely more than a week after the country was hit by back-to-back typhoons which killed more than 20 people. Most of the earthquake victims were from Bogo, a small town on one of the largest islands in the Visayas Islands, the Philippines' central region, and the place closest to the earthquake's epicenter. Images coming out of Bogo show body bags lined on the street and hundreds of people being treated in tent hospitals. Officials have warned of a lot of damage caused by the earthquakes. The local authorities have appealed for volunteers with medical experience to help deal with injuries. Buckled and cracked roads and fallen bridges are also making access difficult for emergency services. Power lines in many places are down, meaning that it's also been hard to speak to those affected. Accordingly, a natural phenomena strikes in the Philippines, with consequential tragedy for those involved. And amidst this comes some other form of carnage, involving, yes, the Markles. For, as a consequence of this earthquake, Samantha Markle, the estranged half-sister of this one's wife, took to X with this. A picture of a banana with "Be strong, Dad" written upon it, and accompanied by the text, "So it looks like the clouds parted. It seems like my sister might have sent hope to the Philippines to my dad." Naturally, a jibe at this one's wife on two fronts. First of all, utilizing the infamous bananas of empowerment, which you'll recall this one's wife demonstrating her arrogance, grandiosity, and idiocy, wrote messages to sex workers using Sharpies on bananas when she visited a project, I think near Bristol, many years ago. See parts pass him for that particular part of this one's wife's lunacy. Furthermore, the criticism is, of course, that this one's wife has nothing to do with her old and infirm father, something that both Samantha Markle and Thomas Markle Jr. repeatedly make mention of, along with many people around the world who regularly suggest to this one's wife that rather than being the faux humanitarian, she would be better served getting in contact with her father to see how he is. But why the source of concern and sarcasm from Samantha Markle in relation to the plight of her father? Well, what had occurred was that there was a further posting by Samantha Markle on her X account where she stated, "My father is stuck on the 19th floor of a building in the Philippines after a massive earthquake, and he can't walk, and he is trapped." She went on to criticize this one's wife for her father's situation, suggesting that she was somehow responsible for putting him in this position. Now, we all know that this one's wife has her faults, but I don't recall her sending her father to the Philippines, nor does this one's wife have the power to cause earthquakes. Perhaps Samantha Markle is referencing the fact that if this one's wife had been more supportive of her father and had estranged from him, he wouldn't have moved to the Philippines. But there we are. You can debate the causal link all you like. But the suggestion was that Thomas Markle, who we know from parts passim had moved to the Philippines, was caught up in the tragedy of the earthquake, and because he's got mobility issues, he was stuck in a tower block, presumably because he can't walk very far and would need to use the lift, and therefore he wasn't able to use the stairs so that he could get out of the building. This meant that Samantha Markle took to X to highlight this concern and also uses it as an opportunity to criticise this one's wife. But then it would appear that this one's wife's estranged father, as per Andrew Young of the Daily Mail, has declared he is fine after fears a huge earthquake had trapped him on the 19th floor of his Philippines apartment block. Thomas Markle, aged 81, said, "Please don't worry about me. Everything is okay." After it was revealed he was unable to leave this home. He then thanked everyone for the concern. The worry was sparked by the Duchess of Sussex's half-sister, Samantha Markle, who posted on social media that her father was unable to leave his flat after the 6.9 magnitude earthquake hit. Samantha, 60, who is known for her often erratic behaviour and a long-running feud with this one's wife, disclosed her fears for her father in a post on X. She then made her X account private so her post could no longer be seen by non-followers. On Wednesday, she offered a further update saying he is now okay and making plans to get out of that building. TMZ had spoken with Thomas Markle, who said he is safe in his hotel room and in no way is he trapped and unable to walk. He added that the epicentre was 100 miles from where he is. Accordingly, more drama with the Markles. First of all, naturally this one's wife would have no concern in relation to her father's well-being. After all, she is a narcissist devoid of emotional empathy, and her father has been disengaged from, meaning that he has been consigned to oblivion. If she was aware of these reports of him being stuck, or indeed she put together that there's an earthquake in the Philippines and that might affect her father, he briefly comes up on the radar. But devoid of emotional empathy and her narcissism seeing no purpose to be served in doing anything about it, she would simply dismiss it and stay in a position of withdrawal. You might consider that the tragedy tourist would suddenly hop on a plane and go to the Philippines to be seen handing out water and being photographed as she aids the relief effort. But ultimately, her narcissism doesn't deem that taking such steps would be worthwhile with regard to the issues of facade management and the receipt of fuel. Hence, not only does she remain silent with regard to the earthquake tragedy itself, but nothing is said in relation to her father. This is then the case that Samantha Markle sees it as an opportunity to have a go at her sister by pointing out that she wouldn't show any concern for her father, about which she is accurate, and also bringing up the bananas of empowerment jibe, as I showed you earlier on. But it would appear that she was a little bit quick out of the gate with her suggestion that he was trapped, with Thomas stating that wasn't the case and that he was some distance away from the earthquake. Either he is just pouring water on the concerns to ensure that nobody's worried about him, or, probably more likely, there wasn't any real problem for him in the first place, and Samantha Markle has decided that she's going to gain some attention herself by saying that he's trapped, causing people to comment upon it, and then leveraging that for an opportunity to attack this one's wife. This one's wife probably hasn't even seen that there's been this attack upon her, therefore it has no impact on her. But it demonstrates it's unsurprising that this one's wife is the way that she is when you look at the family as a whole, as a consequence of having two narcissists for parents and the behaviours of the half-siblings. It's little wonder, and I don't say this to defend the actions of this one's wife, simply to explain them, but it's little wonder that she has nothing to do with them, because their repeated outbursts, some of which are born out of annoyance at her behaviour, some are done as a consequence of publicity seeking, naturally are threats to her control. The erratic and often acerbic behaviours that they exhibit are not those which serve any purpose to this one's wife, and she gets nothing out of the relationship with those members of her family, which means that they've been disengaged from. They're non-intimate secondary sources, and it's relatively unusual to disengage from them, but not unheard of. And particularly in the case of this one's wife has moved on to, in her mind, bigger and better things, not only do those individuals serve no meaningful purpose because they're lower down the ladder, but moreover, they are positively obstructive with their potential threats to control, which again has been evidenced by the behaviour of Samantha Markle. Accordingly, earthquakes in the Philippines, Thomas Markle's okay, the banana of empowerment got wielded once again, and this one's wife stays silent, staying in a position of withdrawal to maintain that control. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.